Guy, it's quarter end today, Wednesday, the 30th. I'm not sure if that means anything, but it's certainly something the market pays attention to.
No question. I mean, in terms of the close, I mean, the last 10, 15 minutes of the day was remarkable. I mean, the market obviously had this huge rip to the upside, sold off hard on the back of whatever Mnuchin and Pelosi didn't do, rallied late. Then I think Dow, I mean, not that the Dow is all that important, but to speak sort of broader language, I mean, it felt like 100 points in like the last, it's one of those crazy month-end markup, markdown type of days. So I don't want to put that much stock in it, but it really sets up for this sort of battleground over the next 3 months.
Yeah, and I mean, much like an NBA basketball game, where does anything really matter till the fourth quarter, right? So you have a case where that's not the case in the stock market in 2020. However, said that, I mean, not just elections, but really trying to assess the impact of COVID is something we've never had to do for the first 3 quarters. I mean, in terms of actual valuations and what companies will do and what the real economy is. And we may not even know that as we get either past the elections or deep into the fourth quarter. And year-end dynamics, God bless you, bless you.
Those are dogs, not sneezes.
Oh, so sorry. So, I mean,
I'm going to cover this while you talk.
Well, I mean, I'm just wondering if they have a view on what's going on with the Heat and the Lakers. I think someone's clearly believes that, by the way, don't call us underdogs in Miami, and maybe they're not.
So think about the Lakers. They have 2 All-NBA guys on that team, which is really remarkable. I mean, the Knicks haven't had 1 All-NBA guy in the last 30 years, and they got 2 in 1 year. I mean, it's fantastic. And I'm sorry for the dog. Stop it! It's crazy here. It's just insanity.
Well, it's a kennel. It's definitely. Are you serving them?
It's a Magic Kingdom. I mean, that's a lousy segue, though. But what do you make of the Disney news?
I believe Cycle 5 is for the older dogs, right?
Cycle 5. I don't know.
It's good for the coat. Gives them a shiny coat.
You want a shiny coat later in life. I mean, the Disney news yesterday I thought was interesting. We talked about it on the show. I don't think we could spend a lot of time on it. Is it surprising? And then on top of that, the NFL canceling their first, this Tennessee game this weekend. Does that mean anything, or is that just noise? I think it's actually just noise, but I'm curious as to what you think.
Well, it's great for Disney to have the cover of the government to do what they need to do, and it's just interesting because if it was an airline, they might not be able to do it, but if they're Disney, they probably can do it. As a Disney shareholder, these comments always need to be dropped into the context of, I know it's a terribly difficult time for a lot of households and people are losing jobs, and I'm not applauding 27,000 people being laid off. From a stock perspective and from a shareholder perspective, seeing a company fight costs and actually watch free cash flow is very, I think, important for Disney, which historically never had to think about this. And for 2 quarters, I think, largely looked like they were going to be okay until COVID hit. But it's a company that overspent for the Fox assets, has a streaming business that's not going to be profitable until 2024 if they're lucky. So seeing where they're cutting SG&A, that was a big part of what made that last quarter number, and I think it was their fiscal Q3. Doesn't really matter. The numbers they just announced back in August made it a blowout quarter because they were actually profitable. So I think the state of California is an easy target. California is going through just some awful confluence of natural disasters and social disorder and obviously budget crises and people that are suffering under the weight of COVID. So it's not surprising that they did this. It's also not surprising to me that the stock finished almost flat today. You've talked about levels in the stock. I mean, around 121 or so. I think the stock can hold.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I thought, not that it matters, but 118.5, if you go back and really look over the last couple of years, that's the level that we bounced up towards a number of times, failed, bounced back up, failed. And then when the Disney Plus news came out, all the good news on the streaming side of things, the stock exploded through that level. So it stands to reason maybe we take a look at it again, but I think your numbers are fine. And I don't think there's anything wrong with Disney. I do think for the first time, and you talked about this, I mean, the fact that they have a balance sheet issue is remarkable if you think about it, but he also
Totally.
makes you realize how quickly things turn. And to me, what this news said, and again, it's 28,000 jobs. I think 67% of those jobs were part-time. I don't know what that means in the context of how Disney views it, because I think Disney has 240,000 employees globally. But to me, it speaks to the lack of clarity that they clearly have or effectively don't have going forward. And, you know, none of us do. And I think that statement from Disney is illustrated.
That almost
I
sounded.
do.
Well, you made
I mean,
this.
I do
That was
in
almost
terms
like
of
an existential statement. Like we don't, you know, none of us know what our future holds.
No, it was not a. It was, you know, we took. Remember freshman year, you had to take Problem of God, and you had to take philosophy classes, and
Jean-Paul
the whole
Sartre.
Jean-Paul Sartre, sure, Nausea, Rene Descartes. I think, therefore, I am. That whole thing. I'm not trying to go there. What I do have clarity with, by the way, is the fact that last night. My Yankees got off to a tremendous.
So you talked about
start.
a turn, and
start.
It was a great segue because also how quickly things can turn. For one, Gio, I'm calling him now Gio Stanton, hit basically a laser, a BB, a bullet, and it just went straight out, and you're reminded that this guy might have as much talent as anybody in the game if he ever really had the head for the game, and if he actually really ever wanted to play.
If he harnessed that ability.
But what's so nice for me, and again, speaking how quickly things can turn, is it's enjoyable for me as a baseball fan to get to the postseason and still have a rooting interest for the Yankees, who I don't hate, who I wouldn't rather see the Red Sox beat if it was down to the last game of the season between the Mets and the Red Sox. And garbage bullshit that you spew, I don't even buy it. But as we look at the third quarter, where Apple's up 27% and Facebook 15%, and we look to the fourth quarter, are they going to be the Yankees that won basically their last 10 games or 10 of 11 to close out the season? Or are they going to be the team that actually, not too far before that, looked like they were going to have trouble making the final dance? And I don't know what Mega Cap Tech's going to do. Yeah. I don't know what Mega Cap Tech's going to do. So I wound this all in a neat little ball of yarn for you. What do you got?
So if you watch Fast Money, which hopefully all you folks watching this do, I mean, we actually talked about the potential and the real need for Facebook to go retest 245, which again, you know, we talked about Disney levels, but Facebook 245 was the level it broke down from in a meaningful way in the middle of summer when all the advertisers pulled, traded back up, then exploded. If you go back and look, I think a week or so ago, it actually traded down to 245. And as I sit here today, I think it's either side of 260 or so. Yep. So it's bounced nicely. I think out of between Facebook and Apple, again, I say this, it's important to say it. I hate everything about Facebook except the stock. And short of some ESG wave coming across Facebook, I think out of the two names you just mentioned, that's the more interesting one.
And so as we go into the fourth quarter with Apple, I want investors to be careful that they didn't have their fourth quarter in the third quarter. I think they may have pulled forward a lot of holiday sales. I just hope the Yanks didn't pull forward a lot of victories from October in September. Guy, good luck to your Yankees.
We play again tonight. I think we got Masahiro Tanaka on the hill.
He's a gamer.
I'm feeling really good about things going forward, Tim. And, you know, LGM, baby, LGM.
This is big hug, man. That feels good.
See you later.